And he says, that is outrageous. If he had been a spy, he would have told me because I was his attorney and I could have gone to the White House and I could have gotten him a better sentence. And I said, wait a minute. You could have gone to the White House to say, go easy on Jeffrey Epstein because he's an Israeli spy collecting information from American politicians? If I were the president, I would have hung him from a tree.
Do you think Jeffrey Epstein was a spy?
I believe very strongly he was a spy, yes.
And who do you think he was working for?
The Israelis. I'm confident it was the Israelis.
This answer you just heard, this short, clear, unequivocal answer, is perhaps the most important statement you will hear so far regarding the Epstein files. Because the person saying this isn't just some random person passing by on the street. It's not an anonymous account on the internet that produces conspiracy theories. This man is John Kiriakou, and you need to know who you are. Kiriakou is an intelligence agent who worked for the CIA for 15 years. He wasn't just someone analyzing at a desk, he was in the field. In Pakistan, he was in charge of the CIA's counterterrorism operations immediately after the 9/11 attacks. He was after the highest-ranking figures in Al-Qaeda. He was the one who led the capture of Abu Zubaydah. He hired the agents. He conducted covert operations. In other words, someone who knows the darkest corners of the intelligence world has worked there and has seen that world from the inside. And then what did he do? In 2007, in an interview with ABC News, he exposed the CIA's torture program. He was the first person to publicly reveal that he had been subjected to waterboarding. This statement shook America, and Kiriakou paid the price for this. He was accused of violating the espionage law. He served 23 months in federal prison. He lost his career, his freedom, his family, everything. Now ask yourselves, why would this man lie? What does he gain? Nothing. On the contrary, such statements make him an even bigger target, but he's still talking. Because, in his own words, he wants to do what's right. And here this man is, sitting before you, answering the question, was Epstein a spy, with an immediate yes, without a moment's hesitation. When asked, who is he working for? He says, the Israelis. And he says, I'm sure. This is not a claim. This is not speculation. This is a professional assessment from someone who worked at the CIA for 15 years, personally conducted intelligence operations, and knows this world from the inside. If you're new to this channel, I recommend subscribing and turning on notifications, because in the continuation of this video, Kiriakou's explanations become much more detailed and interesting, and this information needs to reach more people.
Jeffrey Epstein is kind of the stereotypical example that they give you in training for what's called an access agent. This is a different kind of recruit. So, for example, if you're a foreign intelligence service and you want information, like close-in information from a former president, from the CEO of the biggest company in the world, from a member of the British royal family, you're not going to recruit these guys. You're not going to recruit Bill Clinton or Bill Gates or Prince Andrew. So you do the next best thing. You recruit somebody who has regular access to them.
Here, Kiriakou explains one of the most fundamental concepts in the world of intelligence, the access agent. And this concept is key to understanding Epstein's entire story. Think of it this way. Let's say the Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence service, wants to gather information from some of America's most powerful figures. About Bill Clinton, about Bill Gates, about Prince Andrew. What will they do? Are they going to call Bill Clinton? Hello, Mr. Clinton. We are calling from Israeli intelligence. Would you provide us with information? Of course not. This is impossible. These people are already the most protected, most watched, and most carefully monitored people in the world. You can't hire them directly. You can't even come close to them. But there's another way. You'll find someone who has regular access to these people. Someone who, whether rich, charismatic, or socially accepted, can invite these powerful names to their home, island, or plane. Be friends with them. Make them feel comfortable. Let them gain their trust. And perhaps, he will create situations that will put them in a difficult position. According to Kiriakou, Epstein is the stereotypical example of this description. So, in CIA training, if you ask someone, what is an access agent? If you were to ask, you could point to Epstein as an example. This fits the profile so perfectly. Think about it. Clinton, Gates, Prince Andrew, they all spent time with Epstein. He went to his island. He boarded his plane, the one the public called the Lolita Express. He stayed at home. And now, a former CIA agent is telling us, this wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a coincidence. This was an intelligence operation. Epstein was an agent positioned to access these people.
We know now that Jeffrey Epstein's house on the island had video cameras, hidden video cameras, in literally every room, including the bathrooms. Why? Why would he care what was going on unless it was to use that information against people?
In every room, in the bedrooms, in the living rooms, in bathrooms, hidden cameras, every place. Now, stop for a second and ask yourself, why would a normal person, even a normal billionaire, place hidden cameras in every room of their house? Why would they even put cameras in bathrooms? For security? No. Security cameras are outside, at the entrances, and around the perimeter, not in the bathroom. There's only one explanation: compromat. This term is very well known in the intelligence world. Compromat. Embarrassing, damaging recordings that can be used to control, manipulate, or blackmail someone. Kiriakou's question is extremely simple but incredibly powerful. Why should they care? Why would you spend millions of dollars to set up this system? Why would you put cameras in every room, every corner, every bathroom? Why would you want to record every moment? There's only one answer: to use this information, to use against people. And think about it. Who went to that island? The politicians are gone. The presidents are gone. The giants of the business world are gone. The academics left. The scientists left. The princes are gone. Hollywood stars have left. And it was all of it, recorded by these cameras. This wasn't a party. This wasn't a social event. This was an intelligence gathering operation. And Epstein was at the center of this operation. If you find this content valuable, liking the video really makes a difference in terms of the algorithm. And share your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think currently has these records? Who is hiding them? And are they still being used?
But it would explain why he got a sweetheart deal in 2006. I mean, this is a guy that's been convicted of child sex crimes. And he gets 6 months of house arrest with an ankle bracelet? We have mandatory minimums in this country. That's a 5-year mandatory minimum, first offense.
Let's stop here and talk about the numbers, because these numbers say it all. In the United States, there are mandatory minimums, required minimum sentences, for sexual crimes against children. What does this mean? It means the judge has no discretion. What the law says is what is applied. And what does the law say? Even for a first offense, 5 years in prison. Minimum. You can't get any lower than this. Now let's look at Epstein. This man has been accused of abusing dozens, perhaps hundreds of children. There are statements from the victims, there's evidence, and he was convicted. He was found guilty. What was his punishment? 6 months house arrest, electronic ankle bracelet. And the most incredible part is, even during those 6 months, he could leave the house during the day and go to work. He was released for 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. How is this possible? How can you get 6 months of house arrest when there's a mandatory minimum of 5 years? How can you be free during the day when there are dozens of child victims? Kiriakou says, being a spy explains this. If Epstein was an intelligence asset, if he possessed highly sensitive information about powerful people, there might be someone who wanted to protect him, who didn't want him to go to prison, because he can talk in prison, because he can make a deal in prison, because it can be dangerous in prison. Is this just speculation? No. Because the prosecutor handling the case himself, Alex Acosta,
I debated Alan Dershowitz about this on the Piers Morgan show one time. It was Scott Horton and me who said that he was an Israeli spy. And it was Alan Dershowitz and General Danny Ayalon, the former head of Mossad. And then Piers Morgan said, General Ayalon, was he a spy? And he goes, who knows?
Who knows?
It's like, come on, man.
picture this moment in your mind. Live broadcast, Piers Morgan's show. Millions are watching worldwide. There are 4 people sitting around a table in the studio. On one side, John Kiriakou, a 15-year veteran of the CIA. Scott Horton, international law professor, human rights expert. On the other hand, Alan Dershowitz, Harvard law professor, one of America's most famous lawyers. And, pay attention, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. And General Danny Ayalon, former Israeli deputy foreign minister and former Mossad official. Kiriakou and Horton clearly state, Epstein was an Israeli spy. The discussion is heating up. Dershowitz objects. And then Piers Morgan turns to General Ayalon and asks directly, General, was he a spy? Do you know the answer? Ayalon smiles and says, who knows? Think about it. This man is a former Mossad official, someone from within Israeli intelligence. If Epstein wasn't a spy, if this claim was a completely baseless conspiracy theory, he could have clearly said, no. He could have said, absolutely not. He could have said, this is ridiculous. He could have said, we had no connection with Epstein. But what did he say? He laughed and said, who knows? This answer, this smile, this uncertainty, this evasive behavior actually says everything. Even a former Mossad official doesn't deny it. He's just laughing. Live on air, in front of millions, he's glossing over the question. Now let's put all the pieces together. Jeffrey Epstein. He started as an ordinary math teacher in New York. Then he mysteriously entered the world of finance. Then, in a way that no one could quite explain, he became a billionaire. He accumulated a $750 million property. He bought a private island. He acquired private jets. And somehow, he gained access to the world's most powerful people. The presidents were his friends. Billionaires were coming to the island. The princes were boarding their plane. Scientists, academics, politicians, they were all in Epstein's circle. And there were hidden cameras in every room of his house, including bathrooms. He was convicted of child sexual abuse in 2006, dozens of victims. But instead of the mandatory minimum of 5 years, he received 6 months of house arrest. He was free during the day. The prosecutor says, I was ordered. And the only person who can give that order is the president. An agent who worked for the CIA for 15 years, who went to prison for exposing the torture program, who had no reason to lie, and who sacrificed his career and freedom to do what was right, says, yes, I'm a spy. He was working for the Israelis. Perhaps he also worked for the US. It's possible he's a double agent. And the former Mossad official, live on air in front of millions, laughs at the question, was he a spy? And says, who knows? This is no longer a conspiracy theory. This is what insiders, people from the darkest corners of the intelligence world, are openly saying. Epstein was an intelligence asset. Her mission is to trap powerful people, gather blackmail material, and work for someone who uses this information. Maybe Israel, maybe America, maybe both. And the most terrifying question is, who has those camera recordings now? Who is hiding them? And is it still being used? Are people still being threatened with those records? The answers to these questions may never fully come to light. Powerful people want these secrets to remain buried. But people like Kiriakou, those who know from within, who dare to speak, who are willing to pay the price, show us at least a part of the truth. Epstein wasn't just a pervert. Epstein wasn't just a criminal. Epstein was an operation, an intelligence operation. And who was behind this operation and is still behind it? That's the real question. If you want to follow this story, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every development, every disclosure, every new piece of information regarding the Epstein files will be here. Also check out the suggested videos on the screen. Both are critical pieces of the bigger picture this video is painting.